This will be chaotic as always. And as Ellen said, it will be quite different now that we're recording. I'm not going to do as much guru bashing as usual. So that's a joke. Right.
I have.
Sheila?
I just had a question, but it'll wait till the group.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll wait.
All right. All right. Thank you. Well, let's go ahead and start with some silence. Now that we're recording, I think the most important thing to record is all of us being silent, doing nothing for others to watch on YouTube for centuries to come. All right. Welcome, everybody. Feel free to unmute if you wish. So this is our first meeting that I'm going to record. Never done that before, so Phyllis, so you know that that's happening, Phyllis. We'll be recording this meeting. And
okay. Okay.
Yeah, so muting you for now, Sheila, because there's some noise on your end, but feel free to unmute when you're ready to speak. So yeah, you know, I had this Soundgarden CD I got in high school that had like the last song on it was called 60 Seconds of Silence. And it was literally just a song on a CD that was total silence for 60 seconds. So I like the idea of starting a meeting with silence for other people to watch. It's pretty, it's all in silence and there's nowhere to go from there.
I, for one, connect during that silence.
Me too, Sheila. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have we have Benjamin here for the first time. I want to welcome Benjamin. Yeah, also want to welcome Freon. We don't get to see you too often. It's really a pleasure to have you here with us, Freon. I just recorded a conversation with Freon a week ago that'll go up, and probably 3 or 4 weeks on Nothing Media. And yeah, so it's funny, like the balance of being in pure silence and then having like an agenda of what needs to be said, which the mind can't help but do. This meeting, yeah. So I just want to mention, yeah. So last Friday, 2 days ago, we recorded, and by we I mean me, Benjamin, and a couple other people here, recorded a meeting for Nothing Media. So we've been having these talks on Nothing Media going up once a month as part of their programming, except very few people from our regular group can make it to those on Friday afternoon in the States. They tend to have more of a crowd from England, who it's Friday night for them. Everyone else is, busy working Friday in the afternoon. So yeah, so I wanted to record one of these just to maybe document and share a bit of what this meeting is that we have every Sunday, even though this meeting is never really the same either. It's always new and different and often a bit chaotic and sometimes very peaceful, sometimes, the not great non-duality wars of 2021. So yeah, so yeah, anyone who wants to share their face, yeah, there, as soon as I said it, Lance, you share your beautiful face. Yeah, smiling there. So anyone who wants to for the YouTube, feel free. Yeah, and we're just gonna do what we do here. And I'll leave that open for someone else to try to describe or create. Harvey, what do we do here? What is this?
What is this? It's this. Are you asking what is this like in a particular context?
Yeah, I mean, for maybe anyone watching on YouTube, what
Oh,
meeting? Yeah, and who are you,
okay.
maybe, Harvey? Maybe you should introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
Okay. Well, my name is Harvey Jackson, and I'm a professor of philosophy at Howard Community College in Maryland. But my interest in non-duality, or whatever we would call it, goes back a ways. And this particular forum is not somebody necessarily teaching or a satsang, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a way of just sharing really what's showing up for people, whatever that may be, and a discussion of, it could be non-duality in terms of words, music, other types of modalities. And what's really good about this is everybody, I think, feels that they're not being judged. And it's a great way of asking questions and really seeing if you can, if there's a resonance with the teachings. And it's really a welcoming of whatever shows up. And I think that's the most important thing, the welcoming of whatever is here. It's there is just this. So that's kind of my intro.
That's beautiful, Harvey. So I see that Randall just showed up, so I want to welcome Randall for just showing up. Yeah.
Hi,
Hey,
I
Randall.
like what Harvey said. I loved what Harvey said, just welcoming what shows up, working with that. Amen, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you were in the meeting on Friday, Randall, and you participated quite a bit, and you seemed to enjoy it.
I loved it. Yeah.
How would you
Seemed like a nice chat.
how would you describe it? How would you describe what it is, or what you liked about it?
Oh, yeah, like what it is. I liked the feeling of connection and I don't know, like a harmony, like a real resonance with everyone that shared, which is not always the case. You know, sometimes there's some disharmony, dissonance in groups. I don't know. Often there is, and actually, I'm learning to like be okay with that. And sometimes I'm the one that has the dissonance, but I like being with what shows up. Like that's all there is, and I like the a lot of what Houston was talking about, like you know, with what words mean. You know, we don't all agree on what even simple words. We think we know what everyone agrees that they mean the same thing in the same context, and you know, it's just not the case. It's just so. I guess I enjoy the feeling of just welcoming, and because I've gotten, like I've mentioned this before, so I've gotten tired of this kind of expounding on like what non-duality is and what the self is and what you know, like we are mental fabrications. It's just, I don't know, that may be true, but I don't know. And it just doesn't, it's not real inspiring. I'll put that on my bumper sticker, right? I'm nothing but a mental fabrication. You're nothing but a mental fabrication. Speak for yourself, buddy. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I just have to check on something I'm doing with this. I'm involved with a spiritual center called the Home of Truth, and it's started around the turn of the 20th century. It's like one of the New Thought churches, like Unity and Religious Science, and it's like the only one left. There was 30 of them at one point in the early 20th century, and this is the original one in Alameda, and it was started by two women. So it's they had a leadership model which was very decentralized, which kind of doomed them to, I suppose, end up where they are. Anyway, I have to tend to that in about 20 minutes or so.
Cool. Yeah. I never.
But I'll be in and out. I'll still be here.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Could you share a link to that in the group that you think might be relevant, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. I'd say the Church of Christian Science was probably the first non-duality I ever encountered. Also, a sect of Christianity started by a woman, Mary Baker Eddy. So yeah, I'm not familiar with.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this whole
That's Chris
that you just referred to. I thought there was just that.
Oh, well, yeah, Mary Baker Eddy founded religious Christian Science.
Yeah.
And and then there's people, she was a very charismatic figure and kind of became somewhat domineering, I suppose, as you know, happens in groups, you know, human endeavors. And people broke away from her and they started doing their own thing. And
Okay.
so this was kind of
Interesting.
yeah. So this was the result. It was the Home of Truth. It was Annie Ricks, R-I-X, Annie and Harriet Ricks. There was two sisters, and
Wow.
they had actually went to there was this big, I forget what it was, some big conference, and they heard Vivekananda speak.
Yeah.
And they were very moved by him, and they actually, so they went in the back and they started this church called the Home of Truth in Alameda, California, and he actually ended up staying there a little bit. So pretty rich history. But
Sounds fascinating. Yeah, please share a link to it in the. Also,
okay, yeah.
we should have our Discord online by the time this starts, so we could. I'll share it in there too if you don't. Yeah. All right, Sheila. Yeah, feel free to unmute, Sheila.
I had a hard time hearing with my love. I'm listening. Anyway, that was Annie Hicks, and the name of the church you said was what? I'm
The home-
confused.
The Home of Truth. And
Okay.
it was Rix, R-I-X.
Oh, Rick's by.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Sheila,
Okay.
we'll post a link in
Well,
the.
I'll post the link. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
give me a minute and I'll.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well.
Great.
Cool.
Well,
You said you had a question
I
earlier.
belong to a Unity church, and I thought I heard you say they're all gone. Did you say that, Randall? Well, maybe.
I don't
but
think I don't think that's what he was saying.
Can I?
Oh, okay, good.
I'll answer your question. No, there's only one Home of Truth left. The Unity churches were founded and run by men, and they did a lot better. They had a more aggressive marketing strategy, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're
We've
very
got
yeah.
we've
Okay.
got a man and a woman and another. Well, anyway, go ahead, sir. Oh, you're not finished. You are finished. Okay.
Yeah. Sheila, you said you had a question earlier. Do you remember what it was?
Oh, yeah, but it isn't. I don't know if it's pertinent because it has to do with the body, and I don't know if we talk about that. But long time ago, I learned that if I did something, my pain would go away. Thank you, Terry. And so I did that. Recently, I've had a bunch of pain, and I was wondering what if people think. I mean, how do I say this? Well, it goes away. It went away just now when we were when we all connected, and I'm interested in that. I'm interested also in knowing if, well, what I understand and I experience aren't always in harmony. And do people not use medicine and not take vaccines and not wear masks because they're beyond such things? I have friends who are in that ballywhack, and I'm not. I just don't see any.
You're saying you have
I
friends.
don't care.
You're saying you have
Hmm?
friends who don't take the vaccine or wear a mask because they've achieved some spiritual power? Is that what you're like? Some shield?
They think so.
Some type of samadhi that protects them from viruses from their body?
That's what they say.
Yeah. Well,
I'm more, yeah, I've been a healer off and on, and when my pain goes away, I want, it's like being in two worlds at once. There's the world of compassion, and then there's the world of the reason for the compassion. We talked once about what a bodhisattva was, and I believe now, currently, at this moment, joy and other beliefs, that a bodhisattva is a person who has achieved some kind of oneness, knows that we're all one, knows everything is one and knows it in a way that isn't knowing. And consequently, doesn't want, does it go beyond that? Has so much compassion for this world that he or she doesn't reach for
Yeah.
that nameless state.
Yeah, I understand, Sheila. Yeah, I mean the way I've always heard that word defined, bodhisattva, is someone who doesn't need to reincarnate, but they come back to a body to help others become liberated. That's
Yeah, I know, but I don't believe in reincarnation. But I'm wondering if, yeah. So I'm wondering if there aren't people, and I think I'm one who I kind of stopped. I don't go reaching for that lonely oneness. Nothing matters. Nothing is nothing. I stopped at everything is, and and it's a belief. Is a belief. When you use a word like is, you believe in is, and I don't know. If I don't know, first of all, I don't know anything about the
well,
including whether or not I've stopped. But that's okay.
Sheila, I feel like you've raised a bunch of great topics. So
I do that, don't I?
you just raised a bunch of great topics. Yeah, so I think we should explore some of those maybe, or see what different people might have to say about it. So, yeah, thank you.
Great.
Yeah, Chuck, was there anything in there that for you stood out that you'd like to say something about?
Well, yeah, you were asking all kinds of questions and raising a lot of different issues there, Sheila. I'm not sure which one to address. You said something about you experience things that you don't understand. I couldn't quite get the relationship that you were trying to establish between your experience things that you understand or that you don't understand. Can you kind of go over that again?
There is, I call the world we live in the world of compassion. I have experiences. I also have experiences of oneness, and that those experiences of oneness have led me to believe that that's all there is. It's just one, and beyond there, if there's a nothing world, I don't really. Well, maybe I'm there too. I mean, that's what I perceive. Is that what Harvey talked about it last time we met? Harvey's not here. Yes, he is. There's that picture. I think I move my point of awareness from this world to the other world, and it isn't another world. It's just all awareness. It's just I don't focus on duality but I live in this dualistic world where there is pain, which goes away when I connect. And connecting is what I am.
All right.
I don't know if
Chuck?
it's clear at all or answered your question.
Yeah, I feel like you're exploring, like, I feel like when you speak sometimes, Sheila, you're giving us this very first person subjective narration of what you're seeing in the moment. You know, I get this sense that there's actually absolutely there's very little to nothing contrived when you're speaking, and it's very refreshing, you know, because it feels very stream of consciousness, very in the moment. You're just looking, you're not analyzing, you know, and but if I could summarize the gist of what you're saying from just when you're pointing out this, you know, what Nancy Nethercutt calls 2 feet in both worlds. You know, you're talking about having 1 foot in duality, 1 foot in non-duality. You're talking about the interrelationship between the two that is, you know, and you know, as Nisargadatta said, you know, the contents of consciousness are all from consciousness. You know, it's all held within awareness.
Yeah.
So you're pointing at that, and you're talking about the suffering that emerges in the body and the mind, and then going back to the connection you said allows for peace, you know, allows for the pain to go away or subside. And you know, at the same time, you said earlier about this, the pendulum swinging too far in the other direction, and people who could go a little dogmatic or nutty maybe, and believe that, you know, non-dual samadhi is gonna, you know, make bullets bounce off their chest, you know, and you know, the virus doesn't care that you are in samadhi, you know, and at the same time there may be an effect, you know, you're in a peaceful state, less stress, you know, and that boosts the immune system. I mean, so it's not black and white. And at the same time, there might be more supernatural, I mean, for lack of a better word, paranormal or as yet less understood phenomena. I mean, my first guru had a great talent in energy with his hands.
I mean, I told you to be quiet. That's
Yeah, my first guru had where his hands, he put his hand up to my chest and I was having an asthma attack, and his hand was burning with energy. It was like hot. You could have put a thermometer up to it and scientifically tested this. I don't know how many tests have been done of people who have that sort of talent or skill, whichever it is, you know, but within 30 seconds, my asthma attack completely subsided, just completely. And it actually felt like a physical process. It didn't feel supernatural. It did seem like something that I haven't heard described by science yet. And I used to be very frustrated about I used to feel very alone in my experiences with Kundalini and prana and breath work, because I used to have these tremendous experiences with breathing, and I would try to disconnect them from any dogma that I read about it. And I was always looking for a more grounded explanation. And in recent years, you know, some of you may have heard of the Iceman, Wim Hof, who's in the Guinness World Book of Records for a bunch of outlandish feats he's done in freezing temperatures. And he's held on the edge of a cliff with his pinky or something like this in the freezing cold for 10 minutes. He's just he's a phenomenon, but he's brought to light this the power of hyperventilation maybe, or hyperoxygenation, which is not a black and white issue. It's something science doesn't understand. I've also had prana experiences without that, just focusing on energy and all sorts of things. And I don't want to highlight my experiences too much here. I just want to say, you know, it's there's a whole spectrum of phenomenon that we can look at, and you brought up so many examples on the spectrum, Sheila. I feel like it's too many to even comment on in a broad way, other than to say there is this spectrum. There's a spectrum of everything. And then people who are just totally don't care about any of this are fine. They don't need any of this shit. You know, I really want to say that. That's my opinion, but you know, I like somebody brought up reincarnation in the meeting last week. 2 people did, and they brought up their experiences with remembering past lives that meant a whole lot to them and had a whole lot of significance, huge impact. And I don't relate to that like you, Sheila. So I Chuck.
It's it's so interesting to see how much weight we give to the experiences that we want to get attached to, as if the experiences somehow define and shape who we are. I mean, who are we on the other side of those experiences? Any experience that comes, you know, here it comes, now it's there, and then it begins to fade away, and then it's gone. And then there's another experience comes along, and it's like we swing from experience to experience through the jungle of our minds, and without knowing really or looking at who is this one that is collecting these experiences. Like I had an experience of oneness, or I had this experience of awakening, or all of this stuff. It becomes almost a fertile ground for the spiritual ego to want to say, wow, I'm so special. I've had this. These are my my credentials for being a spiritual teacher, because I've had these different kinds of experiences, and everybody oohs and ahs and goes, oh wow, I wish I could have some of that, and they go after that. But it's, but what is it? What is this real stuff? I was thinking earlier today, and I think I posted something on Facebook about that, there's like more than 7,000 different languages in the world. And every single one of those languages has a separate different word for earth and air and fire and water and person, and just name it all. They have a word for it, and they're all quite different. But what happens to those words, though? Not one of those phenomena actually is the word that's being used to describe it. What is this thing that we're looking at beyond the words, beyond the clinging to it and explaining it and hanging on to it? It's just like at the beginning, we start off with this with this quietude, and we sit in that, and then we may believe that somehow starting to talk about things is going to improve upon the silence. And it just never does. It never will. It never can. It never will. It just muddies the water, and it makes it more difficult but we cling to the muddy water. We want to make sense out of that in some way and figure it out and tack it down and compartmentalize it and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it until what's on the other side of all the questions, what's on the other side of the noise, and can we go there, and can we stay there? Can we be that noise, or be that silence? Can we be that quietude? So that's kind of where I'm at for right now anyway.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah. Parini. It's great to have you here, Parini.
Hi.
Do you have any thoughts on spiritual experiences or the silence, or anything you'd like to share?
I can't think of anything right now. I'll talk when something comes in my mind. But today even I was so I have a very petty issue in my life, which is my weight, which kind of has increased since the past year. And like she was talking about, like, vaccination, there are people who are taking vaccination or not taking vaccination. Similar goes with me when it comes to exercising or working out. And there are people who tell that you don't have to think about your weight, you have to just kind of twist your mind and tell it that if I can be thin even if I eat a lot, and you don't have to exercise to get thin or all of that. And there is a part of society that tells you need to exercise or do all of that to lose weight. And I saw even I was kind of thinking about that, what I mean, I would like not to exercise, but it seems like my mind is kind of trained to think that, only exercising can help me lose weight. So it's a very petty issue, but it kind of affects me very deeply in some sense. And I was thinking about it. He spoke about the body thing. I actually thought, yeah, even I was going through something of that today. So yeah, but as Chuck was saying, I understood what he was trying to say also. But sometimes the conditioning and everything is so deep, and the attachment to the mud is is there. So yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are you saying, are you Perini, are you pointing out how, on the character level, that exercising can be like a goal or an activity that you're just doing, but then simultaneously at a deeper level, it's all just something else?
Yeah, exactly. Because maybe at some level I feel maybe I don't want to do that, and but on my character level I feel it's necessary to do that. So yeah, there is always a um tussle going on in my mind, and kind of frustrates me a lot. And it really seems like a pet, well, I mean, very small thing, but uh, it's been years I've been fighting that thought in my head. And the worst part is I'm not even fat, but even that 2-3 kgs affect me so much. And I wonder that a lot of times, why am I worried about that? I mean, and it's in my I've seen my family worrying a lot about their weight, and I've been called out a lot. So maybe that's the thing, or yeah. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Perini.
yeah.
Good to have you here. Let's see. Rob, you messaged me that you're going to leave at the top of the hour, so I wanted to make sure you had a chance to speak before you had to leave. And what?
I'm just gonna take it in today if you don't mind.
No worries. Yeah, feel free. Yeah, good to have you here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Also, I want to welcome Darren.
Hey,
Good to have you, Darren.
yeah, nice to see you. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah. So let's see.
I think we should let the newcomers know that we're gonna maybe get this onto YouTube at some point.
Oh, I'm privately messaging everyone. Yes.
Okay, you got this covered.
I got it covered, Freon. Freon, what would I actually wanted to throw it to you and see if you had any thoughts on what we've been discussing so far. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. I love this topic of the apparent dichotomy between absolute understanding or absolute clarity, absolute recognition of non-duality, however you want to characterize or label that, and how that seemingly is at odds with the character, with living a normal life, with being human. And I feel like it trips up people a lot. It's definitely tripped me up a lot in the past. And where I'm at with it at the moment is just that just seeing that, like, so there is this recognition, or there is this reality that everything is energy, nothing is separate, and that can be quite clear, quite obvious. And then there is also within this, there is this human experience, and I think what I think the main issue that comes up is people, let me speak for myself. So I felt like I wasn't allowed to be human, or I wasn't allowed to be egoic if I wanted to sustain that recognition. If I wanted to sustain the recognition, I had to sort of divorce my humanity, divorce my egoic behaviors, suppress them in a way, get rid of them in order to maintain this pristine, stateless state of beingness. And that just led to a really unhealthy way of living, because my being human, my having an ego is very natural. It's a natural expression of this reality, and so to deny that was in a way just setting up a new duality, a new way of separating reality, where some aspects of reality, such as the sublime recognition of non-dual, energetic, open, empty beingness, was okay, and being frustrated, being impatient, being arrogant, wanting things, needing things, yearning for things, not wanting things, being resistant to things, all of those kind of behaviors and attitudes were inappropriate to, and were a blockage or a barrier to me living in that recognition. But I feel like if we're talking about non-duality, if we're talking about something that's completely open and completely non-dual, not separate, then in terms of everything being included, then yes, that humanity is included, that egoic behavior is included, and it's all just an expression of that. It's all just the apparent expression of this reality. And it doesn't diminish that reality. It's not a refutation of this open, empty beingness. It is the expression of that. When I can relate to my egoic and human behaviors from that perspective, it's actually much more freeing and much more enjoyable. And I'm able to express my ego, express my humanness in a much healthier way, in a much more open way, in a much more freeing way that is of benefit to me and is of benefit to those around me, because there's no hang-ups about that. There's no rejection of that in favor of something better. So I guess what I'm saying is I initially interpreted non-duality through the same lens as I had previously of I need to be better, I'm not good enough. And more the fulfillment of non-duality for me has been recognizing that everything is included. In a sense, everything is already welcome in this, because nothing can be denied in this. This is everything. And there's no entity or agent in here, in this, that could deny anything, that could reject anything. And so, yeah, everything's on the table. It's all gravy. It's all gravy, baby. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, something came to me when you were saying that, Freon, was, I've heard a lot of, so-called Neo-Advaita radical non-dual speakers and, fans of those speakers often like to bring up these very extreme, gruesome examples of, non-duality is, babies being bombed and rape and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, if you can bring up these examples as that's non-duality, then can't we just say non-duality is like the messiness of falling in love and being heartbroken, or of being neurotic and OCD for a day or two, or having a panic attack? I mean, or seeing a therapist, or taking a medication, I mean, non-duality is all inclusive. So we don't need these extreme examples necessarily. I mean, I guess that breaks people free of some type of thing. For me, I just don't like it. And I apologize for even saying it, but to me, I just, I feel like the all-inclusiveness of non-duality, and yeah, this has been the topic today that Sheila, brought up earlier, that you responded to beautifully there, Freon. I mean, is this tension between, how, am I supposed to appear to myself, to others, as a non-existent entity when I get hungry and sleepy and horny and neurotic and heartbroken and all these things, the whole human spectrum of experiences, it's all human. And I do feel like there's this tendency towards lightness. Like Paul Hederman says, the action figure tends to travel lighter, as this message is, absorbed, or however you want to put it. Jack, I'd love to hear you chime in if you'd like, because I actually, on this topic in particular, I was listening to your interview with Emerson from a few months ago, and I think he asked you what is non-duality, or a general question like that. And I remember you responded, I think this was you, where it was you, I hope this was you, but I think you responded with, like, oh, well, it depends which tradition you're going to answer from. And you were saying that from, the Chinese Buddhism, Dzogchen, tradition, then there might be more of a, like stages of refinement. And then if you come from the Advaita non-dual and the modern, radical non-duality, it's like kind of what I just said, that this is all already perfect. This, and so, yeah, what's your take on this? How has your take on this changed over the years, Jack? And what's your take on it now? What are your thoughts?
I like what Freon said. I think that you can't add anything to this, and I can't take anything away from this. And it would, like, everything that's happening right now as we sit here that we don't see is it too. The traffic and the freeway and the people getting ready for the sporting event and going home from church. And like, you can almost feel like the world is taking place in this multiplicity all around us and as us. And there's nothing I can add to that. I can't, or subtract from it. And with Perini, I just wanted to say, I think vanity is such a natural, beautiful part of who we are. Like, I love weighing 71 kilograms or 158 pounds. Like, I love it. I check the scale. I go in, I eat less if I'm 161. Like, I just love weighing 158 pounds. So I just want to relate to that and just be like, hell yeah, that's part of it. Like, that's part of the fun, the vanity, and not a problem at all. We have our preferences. We have our preferences, and those preferences end up being God's preferences, is how I think of it. So it's like, oh, well, what does God want to do today? God wants to weigh 158 pounds, like. So.
Yeah. Even I wanted to tell about the interview. I really loved the interview, yours and Emerson's. Yeah, just wanted to say that. Thank you.
No, thank you. It's a funny game trying to say something.
So Benjamin, what do you think about this? Was I right? Did you say that in the interview? And what are your thoughts on this tension between those two perspectives of gradual refinement versus sudden awakening, always this?
Well, I think they both exist. So there's I can meditate and I can become a nicer person. And there's nothing you have to do about anything anyway. And I think they both exist. I don't know about other traditions other than what I actually play with. I'm a big fan that there is I kind of lean towards, there's a truth to the Theravadan model, which I know makes certain people cringe. And for me, I just go, look, if I'm experiencing anger, there's still something I'm not getting. But then in a non-dual sense, it's like anger's totally allowed. So I kind of just dance between the two, and I don't make up rules for myself in that way. But if I see impermanence, it's pretty hard to get angry, is how I feel it. So if I get angry, I go, hey, wait a minute, there's something about impermanence that I'm missing. So let me look closer at that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. Harvey, would you like to comment on this Theravada model or anything Benjamin just said?
Well, he actually reflected something that I sort of wrestle with and I really hold both. If there's anger, like in the Theravada model, there are things that one can do to look at it and see if there's craving or desire. On the Dzogchen side, there is everything is just included just as it is, and that includes anger and whatever. And I've often wrestled with the two sides of it, and in a sense, I look at it as being the space for both to be there, because I don't know if there even needs to be a resolution. In a sense, to look at things like anger or other vices or whatever, that's what's there. And that's included too, that one may be looking to take a look at the anger. And that in a sense is part of our humanness as well. So I just hold both as in that space and not try to find the resolution to it.
Yeah. It seems to me like in that talk that Jim Newman had with Sam Harris, where Sam and Jim were talking about, this where the rubber meets the road element of, Jim was saying if he's stuck in traffic and some drivers are cutting him off, that he'll be angry, that anger can arise, and Jim was suggesting that, well, is it possible for a state to be achieved where anger never arises? And Jim's response was, maybe maybe that's possible, but that has nothing to do with what Jim is talking about from his perspective.
You know what's interesting when you say that, and it sort of reminds me of something, is that even if I or the character here says everything is fully included just as it is, but that's also could be very conceptualized. And so if there's a urge to look at anger or to discover ways of reducing it or seeing that it may be a resistance to what is, well, that's there too, and that's included. So in actuality, it's not really this or that. It just may appear like that in the mind, where the mind's like, well, it should be absolutely perfect and complete just as it is. But that's just the mind playing with it. So in a sense, whatever shows up, whether one is just, we'll say, noticing the anger or sort of looking at it to see what's in it, that's okay. They're both there, and whatever shows up, there's that welcoming of that's what's there. And if it includes looking at anger or the Theravadan way of approaching it, that's okay too.
Yeah, and it's great, Harvey. And yeah, two great comments here in the chat. Randall says, it seems to be clear as mud that we walk in both worlds. It's a beautiful koan right there. And then Naomi says, it's all it, the having of it, the not wanting it, the wish to improve, and the failing to do so.
And the improving.
And I was about to say, and the perhaps succeeding to do so, the improving, yeah. And let's see. Darren, would you like to share?
Yeah, I was just thinking how muddy the both worlds are. I was picturing everybody in Wellies in the muddy worlds.
Tracking footprints from one world to the other.
Yeah.
Mud fight.
Yeah. I don't think I've got much to say. I guess I was thinking about anger, but I wasn't really thinking anything. Yeah, it just seems to me like anything that appears is just is okay. I mean, right now I have a bit of tension in my stomach, you know, and that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with what's appearing. It'd be nice if the body was just didn't have that. I don't know what it is, but if that wasn't there, that would be just a bit more comfortable for the body. So, and anger. Let me just think. I don't think Jack said something about maybe it being somehow, if it were reduced, then it would be, I can't remember what you said, it would be as if you were closer to what is. But I think, I mean, you can't move away from this. So anger is just an appearance in it, not in it, but as it. And it's just okay. This is anything, it's everything. So yeah, I'm thinking that it should be something else. There isn't something else. I'm rambling a bit and going around in circles because I haven't really got anything to say, but I feel like I want to say something.
Well, it's a circular thing, really, because it just becomes, it is a circle. You know, it's the same.
Yeah, so it's just all okay. Even the not okayness is okay. Yeah, it's great. It's in that sense, it's quite a relief.
And the trying to change it. Do you experience that, Darren? And does that feel okay?
Sometimes, but not really trying to change it. So it doesn't need to be changed. But there might be a thought, oh, I could go out and get some sunlight today. I could get some air. I might feel a little bit better, you know, because I've been in for a while. And so there might be that, but there's no feeling that there's something wrong with anything.
Cool. Cool.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, the okayness. I mean,
yeah, it's so great.
Yeah,
it's just great. I mean, it's just, you know, on one hand,
yeah.
That's just amazing.
So at this point in your life right now, there's nothing overall that you have a goal to change.
No.
That's a nice place to. That's a nice place to be.
Yeah. I've got to go to the doctor's tomorrow. I've been getting headaches for a few months, about 4 or 5 months. I never get headaches, and I've been waking up with headaches in the morning quite repeatedly. And so I've got to go to the doctor, and the doctor's going to do some checks. And she said, I think we should send you for a brain scan as well, because just to check it out.
Oh.
And that's completely fine as well. There's no real worry about that, and whatever that turns out to be is fine as well. You know, even if it feels like even if it wasn't great, it would be okay, which wouldn't be great, but that would be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Well,
and if it's not, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's always fine if you give up your idea about what fine is supposed to look like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is the remarkable apparent medicine of non-duality, which isn't supposed to do anything for anyone, but this is the reason why there's so many book titles like Byron Katie's Loving What Is, because it does act as a medicine sometimes to just give up your idea of what fine is, just like you said, Chuck, to just accept and love what is, things can't be any different. And the relief that can come from that can be tremendous. I mean, this is what Paul Hederman means by traveling lighter, not as why you take on this, but philosophy, whatever, you know, but it's a byproduct. It's an apparent byproduct, is that the character, the action figure appears to travel lighter as the feeling that things could or should be different evaporates like when Neem Karoli Baba told Ram Dass, you know, when he wanted to go help this flood in India and all these people that were, you know, he wanted to help the victims of the flood. And his guru said, you can go, but can't you see that it's all perfect? Which he really couldn't. He had to admit to himself that it felt cold-hearted to look at it that way when so many people were suffering, apparently. And that's the two opposites. That's the two worlds in a nutshell right there in one example. You know, I mean, you have to be an absolute, I mean, I think I heard Emerson and Noel say this in their conversation with each other, that it's almost like to be the perfect non-dual teacher, you have to be an absolute sociopath. You have to basically just appear as nothing ever touches you or in any way that would ever be viewed as human. You just sit there and, you know, gracefully just tell everyone the same thing. As long as you're alive, there are no things, there's no one here. Yeah, and that's it. Like, you know, I mean, Ramana reacted many different ways to people. You know, one time somebody was coming to him and saying they were in great suffering. And I guess they were on a bit of a trip about it, you know, and he felt it was appropriate to just kind of freak out himself. It's one of the lesser known Ramana stories from this obscure book that David Godman published, where Ramana said that Ramana started screaming and kind of saying like, don't you know, like you don't know what pain I've been through. Why are you telling me your pain? And you don't know what pain I've been through. A few months ago, like I was climbing Arunachala and I fell down and twisted my ankle and I was covered by rocks for hours. And then Ramana's mother was alive at the time and she started crying and saying, no, Ramana, don't remind me of this. That was such a horrible couple of months to have to see you suffer like that. And it was like this absolute, just crazy soap opera, you know? And I imagine all of the most, you know, serene, centered of non-dual teachers have moments like this with their spouses, their children, their friends, themselves in private, and they just don't want that to be seen, and that's their choice. But, you know, or that's not their choice, however it may be. But yeah, what a lovely topic that to describe. And I don't think it's better to be one way or the other. I mean, maybe, you know, it's fine to keep up your image and whatnot.
You know, I think it was either Lao Tzu or Chuan Tzu who said something about the ultimate truth is really paradoxical. And one of my phrases that I like to use is, if you want to be in paradise, you have to be willing to be in paradox and to be in both of those places. And even though it doesn't seem like you can't even just be with that what is, but to do it in a way that you don't just like, well, I'm going to tolerate this uncomfortable situation. I'm just going to put up with it and cope with it. And if you actually make like a choice, you can actually make like a choice. You're choosing exactly what is. You align yourself so there's more of a participatory energy going on in your contribution to what's showing up. So I think that it's made a difference, you know, for me when I actually choose things to be the way that they are and participate in its showing up, because then in a sense you're like co-creating with the universe that you are.
Thanks, Chuck. It's good. Yariv, would you like to share on this topic of the humanness, the groundedness, what Chuck just said about the paradise can only be known through paradox?
Sure. One thing that's been up for me lately is noticing how this identification with this me, with this Yariv guy, kind of comes and goes throughout the day. And Paul Hederman talks a lot about that, claiming that, you know, say I'm speaking right now, and then in a couple of minutes, I'll think, oh, I just said some stuff. It was me. And I noticed that. It kind of makes this this person, this me thing, a lot less permanent and a lot less opaque, a lot more transparent, and because I see all the coming and going of this me. That's sometimes in line with what is, and sometimes is not. And yet what is always happening. It always is. And the other thing, you sort of talked about anger, and I've been listening to a few podcasts actually. There was one with Paul Hederman. There was another one with a Japanese woman whose name escapes me right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. No. Yeah. Yeah. And there was someone who sounded very angry, the same person on both of those podcasts. And it's really interesting for me at this point, what's going on there? Why is this person so angry? What's and it's interesting because I've recently had a kind of a little bit of an understanding about people who have narcissistic tendencies. I'm in a relationship with someone who may have those. Obviously, I'm not a, not obviously, but I'm not a psychotherapist, so I can't say whether they do or not. But I realize that he's missing something. He's missing an ability that other people have to experience empathy, to experience this closeness, this connection that a lot of people do, that here on this Zoom call even, I think a lot of us are experiencing, because I notice myself when people are talking, I can just so resonate and agree with what people are talking about. He doesn't have that ability, and it's kind of like a person who's blind, who just doesn't have the ability to see. And you know, I can't get mad at someone because they just aren't capable of having or experiencing something. You know, I can't get mad at a person who's blind because they knock into things or they don't know what red means. And the same here with his ability to, or lack of ability to experience empathy. Um, I, and I just think it's, I can see the humanness and the beautiful person that is, you know, apart from that lack of ability. You know, just because someone is blind doesn't mean that they don't have other amazing traits. And the same thing here, just because someone doesn't have the ability or the capability to experience empathy doesn't mean that they don't have other amazing qualities.
Yeah.
Well, in the end, you're not going to live with everyone you love. You just won't.
No. And sometimes you don't love the people you live with.
Well, I figure that, you know, everybody that shows up in my life, I've had something to do with them showing up as they do, that I've somehow been a creator of all of that. So I figure that when people of that ilk show up in my life, that I've invited them, you know, to play in my play for a bit, and I open myself up to see what I can find out, why they're there and why they're showing up as they are in that space at that time. And who knows, maybe I can figure it out, maybe not, you know, but they come, they go, they come, they go, and they've got their entrances and they got their exits. But, you know, it's like being angry at the cast of characters that I create in my dreams at night. You know, why would I be angry at those characters? I mean, they all come from the heart of who I am, and I've created them to be that way. So I can't say that they're wrong and bad and stupid and ugly and not okay. I mean, how silly is that? I mean, they are me. They're some kind of manifestation of something inside of me that wants to play out during my downtime. So yeah, you know, you look at that, and I, you know, in a sense, open my arms even wider and pull them in too. Got to own it all.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple of people said this in different ways, but another way of saying it is just welcoming everything. And not welcoming it in order for it to go away, to welcome it and then out the door, but to actually welcome it and be prepared for it to stay for as long as it needs to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Loving what is. Will, would you like to share on this topic?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is my mic working right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just to touch on what Yariv just said, I used to I've had friends in my life with, you know, occasional antisocial kind of tendencies or whatever, and I would always kind of look at it as like, you don't like go to the pound and get mad at a dog there for biting you. Like that's just, you know, how they were conditioned to be. But then I also wanted to talk about what we were saying earlier about like walking in the two worlds. I feel like lately I've been more in the character mode than the, you know, like I haven't been taking as much time to be reflective of the whatever you want to call non-duality, you know, that realm of like thought. But I like, in not paying as much attention to that, I've kind of realized like my own practices, whatever you want to call that, meditation, or just kind of being aware of everything. It kind of reminds me of like if I've been practicing playing guitar a lot and then I listen to music, then it's like I'm hearing a different thing than if I like hadn't been practicing. Like it's kind of like I don't know how else to say it, but just like it, when you kind of like pay attention to something, you get better at noticing it even when you're not paying attention to it. And so lately, I guess, you know, being more in the role, it gets a little bit harder to when something does happen that I'm not, that the character maybe isn't super happy about, it's harder to be like, you know, oh, this is that too, and that's okay. It's so I guess right now what I'm trying to do is I guess like practice the guitar, like get back into the just noticing.
Cool. Yeah. You know, oh, Jack?
Just wanted to, yeah, is it okay if I piggyback off? I love that you said that, Will, because I've been sitting lately, just meditating, and then I'm doing new things because I'm not inside the pattern of myself.
Right, yeah.
Like I really resonate with what you just said, because it is like practice. I think Suzuki Roshi said, there's nothing to do, so practice nothing.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool, thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
So something that came to mind when you said that too, Will, for me was, you know, like noticing the unnoticeable. It doesn't really make sense, but that's what this is somehow. Even when you're not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like noticing, I mean, it's like when you look at a river, like, you know, the water is see-through, but you can still tell what direction it's flowing in, even though it's not, you're not really looking at anything. You know, you're kind of just seeing the rocks at the bottom and stuff, but yeah, you can still kind of pick up on the subtle little cues.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's you know, reminds me of I know this one person that's really into night walking, and it's this practice for them where if you walk long enough in pitch black, it might take hours, your eyes start to adjust and your eyes go into this other mode, your awareness goes into this other mode where you're not focusing on anything, you're focusing on, I forget, she has a word for it, but it's yeah, and it comes pretty close to the way people describe non-duality quite often. Phyllis, I saw that you unmuted yourself, so, and then I'd love to hear from Andrew after that maybe, but if you, Phyllis, if you have something you want to share. Or maybe.
I was just picking up on the music again. I was surprised that Darren didn't pick it up on this paradox that Chuck mentions, and the paradox of it all, of the dual and non-dual, and welcoming and not welcoming, and being okay with it and being more than okay with it, to invite, knowing that we've invited somehow into our play, into our movie, all that is appearing somehow. That's possible. I don't know that that's true or not, but it could be. If a narcissist shows up, and then a second one shows up, and a third one shows up, maybe I have to ask myself, what is my relationship to men, or to women, or to, emotions? But what came up when I saw Darren was muddy waters.
Yeah.
the great.
Oh no, I didn't get. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I was saying
perfect.
that,
That's perfect.
Darren, how did he not pick that up? He's got a
Yeah.
bad headache, Darren. My musical buddy didn't remember Muddy Waters, huh?
Muddy Waters. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's a great black, what do you call it, R&B or before R&B, you know,
It's
it's
funny.
all muddy.
Yeah. I was listening to someone today who was talking about him. They were talking about
Yeah.
guitar riffs, licks,
Yeah.
and they were talking about Muddy Waters lick where he
Mm-hmm.
holds one note 20 seconds, and
Yeah.
how amazing that one note sounds.
Yeah. There's this, the contrast, just riffing off of that, Darren. There's this one Jimi Hendrix solo. The first time I heard it, it blew my mind so much because you hear so much Jimi Hendrix and all of his effects and virtuosity. There was this live version of this song called Machine Gun, and at one point in this very long solo, he's just holding a single note for like 16 bars. And he just keeps hitting it. And it's so powerful. The fact that he just stays on that one note.
Yeah.
It's all pretty muddy, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty muddy, and we get through it as we get through it. There are no paths, there are no, there's no how-to, there's no user manual. There's no right or wrong. It is not, there's no wrong way to do anything, because then there could be a right way, and then we'd be in two things. So it's where we can talk about any of that, but it's not, that's not non-duality, but it's non-duality too, because that's everything. But and coming back to the anger issue, I think anger is a very healthy emotion. Why would one want to get, you know, we are meant to express. If my child puts her finger and then into the gas range because she wants to touch the flame, my granddaughter, I'm going to get really angry at her and probably yell at her and maybe spank her, say, Ina, you cannot do that. You must not do it. And that, what is wrong? You know, we are not little, you know, I don't know, what do you call these handy wipe, like little wet dish towels, You know, we are healthy, vibrant mammals, and we have emotions and we show them, and that is part of that spectrum of anger and joy and jealousy, and but not the judgment part. The emotion in itself that's life. But when it gets to be a little more stickier is when we're judging it. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Why in the hell did I say that? You know, my whole life would have gone differently if I didn't ask her that question that night. You know, it's the shoulds, woulds, coulds. It's not what happens. What happens, happens. And that also happens. So it's that's just a few of the things, but you can't get out of it. It can't be, it's more than included, it's more than allowed, it's welcomed. As Chuck says, if I don't welcome it in some way and say, oh, come here, stay as long as you like, because it will stay as long as it likes anyway. It's I don't know. It's just, there's very little control over this anyway,
Yeah.
You know, who am I is going to decide what's better? I don't know what's better for the world. I like to think it's probably more helpful to recycle plastic, but how do I know? How do I know? I'm not in control of what happens to the planet. You know, and I'll probably pick up trash and recycle my plastic and my paper, and because I'm a bit obsessive compulsive about that. But that I'm helping the world. Ooh, ain't I grand and mighty, Ain't I an important person, And how do I know what's best? Maybe humans have made such a mess of this that we deserve to get kicked off. I mean, I don't know. And the more I can feel that I really don't know, the freer it is. Because knowing binds is somehow kind of binds a person or the character. I know this. And a person, someone's talking like someone getting angry when Naho was talking. Of course, because she's very clear and razor-like. And if you have someone challenging all beliefs, that person is going to get very angry when you tell him or her that all her beliefs are the same as believing in Santa Claus. Just a belief. It holds no more water than that. So,
Very
so
good.
it's all muddy waters, all muddy. We do the best we can, huh? With the tools we've got at any given moment. So there's never anyone to blame, ever. We have to have the best love of this, the best of non-duality is the total love for total compassion for all actions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Andrew,
Phyllis.
Andrew, would you like to share?
Yeah, so, paradox to me kind of implies completion. So paradox means you're seeing all of it, both sides of it, all of it, none of it, all at once. So non-duality is not only inclusive, but it also is inclusive of exclusivity. So it includes excluding. And, it kind of reminds me of Dzogchen in a way that, the great completion, the great perfection, it's already here. And if someone who's already had a non-dual shift tells that to a Dzogchen practitioner who might not have already had that shift, they might get angry. What do you mean it's already here? I'm doing all these advanced meditations for 12 hours a day. How can you, it depends on kind of what's going on. It depends on the perspective. People study systems that, might not be serving them in that moment, or they might be in a certain perspective and in another one even. So some people tend to even think they've woken up when they haven't, perhaps, and they'll be on a different trip. But it might be, it's hard to explain. Hard to say. It's hard to stay silent too. Silence, if it's forced, if it's a doing by the dualistic mind, is also not very eloquent at expressing this nothing, even though it's silent. Really all depends, I think. Like clarifying actively is sometimes more helpful than staying silent. And I think not saying something that you feel the urge to say is a form, almost like, it feels like lying. If you don't express what it is you want to express or what wants to express itself, if you unnaturally repress that urge even, then it almost feels like lying.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew on that. It's, the idea seems to be not to be free from feelings. You don't want to get free from feelings. The idea is to become free to feel absolutely everything that arises. So it's a freedom to and not a freedom from.
Or as I like to say, feel free. Or another way to put it is feel free to feel free.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Wow.
Can I share something?
Yeah, yes, I want to just read.
What?
I'm going to read Naomi's comment real quick, and then is that okay, Randall?
No. Fuck no.
Sorry.
Feel it.
Yeah, I know.
Now you know what.
At least he's being honest.
I want you to read it, but it's still not okay. That's
Make it okay that it's not okay.
Exactly.
Perfect. Now go ahead, Randall. Go ahead. That's the mud.
That's what Naomi said.
That's okay. We can read. Wow, there it is. It appeared. I was well, I wanted to bring it back to like what's alive for me, and I want to like totally give free rein to the absolute unempathetic narcissist that's alive in me right now, because I was like totally enjoying what was being said, and I had all these thoughts and all these like responses, and all this stuff was alive for me, and then I just felt like, oh, I want to share, I want to talk, I want to like express it, because there's this, it just like wells up, and then there's like, oh, do I just like I don't know how to do that without being like a bull in a china shop that's just like crashing, and like be restrained, and like be okay with how I'm feeling, and welcome it, like on this like who's being okay with I'm not okay, like it's just this like intense paradox. It feels a little insane, to be honest. And then and I was thinking like, when I like, so that's a position, when I was thinking Ben was talking about the quantum, with the uncertainty principle, it's like grasping onto a position, and it's like it can't stay fixed for very long, and then it has to shoot up. And the velocity, in being in motion, like I don't know anything anymore then, which is great. Once I'm moving, I'm talking in the moment or doing anything, there's no me, which is fucking awesome, And then the coming back to like, oh, I'm just here now in this silence, and who am I now? Someone is like just enraptured with just beingness, and that can be happening, and sometimes it could not be happening. I could be sitting here like listening to people expounding about abstractions that are imaginary, which I started getting antsy listening to like anything that's not really alive in the moment. And so it's just been really fascinating for me to listen to it. Oh, and anger. That's the thing about anger. It's like when I'm expressing, it's so clear and perfect and pure, and then I notice that there is someone that seems to be being angry. And then I notice that noticing, and I just think this is the most crazy thing I've ever experienced. So that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Randy.
Oh, that was all. I got a charge.
So that message from Naomi said, this meeting is like putting on some good wellies. Is that a British term? What's a wellie, Darren?
Yeah, that's I don't know what you call them over in the States. Boots, mud boots. Yeah, the Wellingtons, wellies. Right. Yeah.
Boots. Okay. Yeah. This meeting is like putting on some good wellies or boots and getting to play in the mud in great company.
Yeah. They're the rubber boots, like you have.
Yeah. I think we just call those rubber boots. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Rain boots.
Rain boots, yeah.
I wonder why they call them wellies.
It's like how in England they call vacuum cleaners, what Hoovers.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a brand. But we do the same with other words. Yeah. That actually brings up one of my favorite words. It's a doozy, which maybe will be relevant to the meeting. Synecdoche. Is anyone familiar with this word synecdoche?
Yeah, there was that film, wasn't there?
There's a film that
New York.
Right, which is a play on a city in New York called something else.
Schenectady.
Yes, yeah.
Schenectady, New York.
That's sort of a pun, that movie title, for this word that nobody even knows the definition for. But the word synecdoche, that's an example of it. To call a vacuum a Hoover. It's when you use a subset of a word to describe the whole. So it's like if somebody's complimenting someone's car and they say nice wheels, they're not referring to the wheel, they're referring to the car. And if, like the grandmother says, stop playing that Nintendo, but they're actually playing Sega, she actually just means stop playing video games. So in a way, every word is a synecdoche from the non-dual perspective, or any word trying to point to it, trying to point to who you are or what reality is all synecdoche, because it's all this subset. It's all a reduced down to, oh yeah, love. We could define love. We could define no thing. We could define God. We could define all these words are synecdoches. They're not it, but they're part of what it is. And in that way, so is an airplane. You could call this all one big airplane. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. It might be bullshit. Probably is.
So if anyone's interested, the reason why we call Wellies Wellingtons over here is because the first Duke of Wellington used to wear a Wellington boot, became a practical bootwear for the British aristocracy. And so that's how we ended up calling them Wellies.
God bless the British aristocracy.
I think we got the word sandwich from the Earl of Sandwich, didn't we?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Given us so many wonderful names. It reminds me of what they call sound poems, which is just there's no meaning in the words. It's just the loveliness of the sound of the words themselves, or asemic writing. It's art that looks like language, but it's meaningless. It's just for the beauty of what it looks like. Like in Donnie Darko, I don't know if anyone's seen that. Cellar door, what a beautiful word. That's like a sound poem, for example.
Yeah, one of my favorite bands, that's how they write lyrics. This British band, the Cocteau Twins. All of their lyrics sound so beautiful, but they don't mean anything. It's all just words that sound nice together.
Yeah.
When I was teaching, I used to teach English to 2 Vietnamese students. Excuse me. And the little girl had a great affinity for the sounds of certain English words. Like I showed her, I would teach her words. And they were very clever because they already knew French and Vietnamese. So a third, they already knew what the thing wasn't the word itself, that the thing could have 2 meanings. The thing itself could have 2 definitions and therefore 3 definitions, then therefore infinite words to describe it. So they're already quite far along on an abstract path of thinking, or a non-dual way of thinking, that the thing and the word for it were not at all related. And she saw something on on a table, and she says, "What is that, Mrs. Smith?" And I said, "It's a spool, the spool of thread." And she just kept repeating, "Spool, spool, spool." She just loved it, the beauty of the sound with no meaning. And there is a great freedom in the meaninglessness of things. Humans are plagued. It's almost kind of like a curse, like the curse of the great stepmother-in-law in the sky, saying humans will be cursed to look for purpose and meaning forever and ever, until they have their finger pricked by a non-dual teacher. Where we're so thirsty for meaning. Why? Meanings, there's just what's happening. Does it have a meaning? I don't know. You can give it a meaning or not a meaning, but in itself, nothing has any apparent consistency, meaning, purpose, goal is just a perception, a fleeting perception. And we can just yappity yap, give it all the meanings we want in 500 languages and dictionaries, and it still will not touch the pristine nothingness of that moment. That what I call a sort of a gorgeous, innocent emptiness of that word, which has been said and is gone forever. You can talk about what's gone forever, since everything is included. But we're as if we're condemned. What is this? Why? We have to know what it means. No, you don't. You can. But the have-tos are all included too. But there are no have-tos, and meaning is just meaning, whatever that means. I mean, she didn't care what a spool of thread was. That child was never going to sew in her life. But she just wanted to go repeating spool. It was like a connection of vowel sounds that didn't exist in either Vietnamese or in French. So it was something just amazing to her, like a new star. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like the moment you label this, when the experience, the story, and then you say that's good or bad, it's what you wanted or what you didn't want, and the story gets added to, the meaning gets added, that but if you don't know what anything is, what, how great is it to experience anything almost?
And that's really the conundrum, isn't it? I mean, we have the 7,000 languages available, and we've got 7,000 different words for person. But what is a person? Which name in which language means that thing over there sitting there with legs and arms across the room? What is that? What is that without the names? Can you go there?
But it's also incredible that we have all these names, and we can separate all of these things and describe them in so many different ways. And I mean, it's just incredible, the depth of that language, and that it doesn't exist, but the fact that it sort of does, it's just amazing. There's just this blankness, and then all of that. It's incredible.
For some reason, it kind of reminds me of an unabridged English dictionary, and we assemble all of these meanings and all of these words and everything in there. Think of every horrible thing that people can do to, with, and for each other. You can assemble sentences like that, and then they just all disappear, but they're all right there in that same big dictionary. They're all contained in that. And there's no, you assemble them, you put them together, you tell the story of your life and of the life that you're creating in the dream world. You do that.
And there's no aliveness, there's no vivacity to the words in and of themselves, unless they're put into a story. But we love the story, and why not?
We love our stories.
We love our stories, huh?
And like that,
sorry.
That scientist that Yariv brought up a few weeks ago about, how human brains didn't evolve to see reality or communicate it or see it accurately, and how could they? How could anything be seen accurately when, yeah.
What's accurately as opposed to what? Non-accurately.
Right, but you do know how to cross a street. Right, like how to cross a street, so you can see the world. That practically makes sense.
Yeah, it's a perception. It's just perception. It's not.
We're not going to walk in front of a car. Like we're not creatures.
No, we're not. we're programmed for survival and reproduction. That's about
Right,
it.
right. And art.
Uh, And art, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what you're saying. I'm hearing
I don't
poetry
know.
come out. I'm hearing poetry come out of your mouth.
Well, that's just because that's what happens to this character. Perhaps speaks poetically, but I'm not. That's what this character does.
Yeah, you're good at it. You got me the other
Thank
day. You said something very beautiful the other day.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
What was it? I don't remember it.
You said that OCD is okay and therapy is
Oh.
okay and medication is okay, and you said it was all okay, and it was a really beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, it was all allowed. Huh?
Yeah, that's it. It was all
And
allowed.
if it-
That's what you said. That was really
Yeah,
sweet.
and if it, oh, good. Okay. Thank you. I
Oh, you went on mute, Phyllis.
wasn't sure if I was being criticized or applauded or both, which is lovely.
No, no, no. Not
Thank you.
criticized. Just
That's
describe.
fine.
Just
I
describe.
described, there you are.
Yeah.
We're just talking about spools here, huh?
Right, right, right. Well, meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we didn't know what we meant, we wouldn't know what we said.
Yeah, that's why we forget it.
Absolutely. That's the traveling lighter.
Yeah, that's traveling lighter.
Paul said, you know, you stop caring about trying to remember whatever used to bother you. You just stop caring.
Just think of all those dictionaries that Chuck was talking about. Probably the Oxford Unabridged Dictionary of the English Language. How much that must weigh? How heavy that must be to carry around.
Oh, but thank God we have it though. I mean, we just be sat here, wouldn't we?
Darren,
Without
that's
it.
just because you're
Without
English.
it, we
You
just be
just gotta-
sat here without it, just saying nothing.
You just got to recoup all that English stuff, don't you? Huh?
Yeah.
Darren, can I give you a health advice
Yes.
for your
Go ahead.
headaches? I wonder if your room isn't too hot. If you might
it's
sleep in
not,
a cooler room.
It's quite cool.
Cool,
And
yeah.
I'm deep and I'm hydrated. I've kind of looked at lots of things.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
one of the things that happened, just on a side note, if anyone uses them, because I used to read stories about this and completely sort of ignore them or discount them. But I've been wearing Bluetooth headphones for a couple of years, for many hours a day, actually. And then I noticed these headaches started getting sort of worse and worse. And then at some point, I sort of suddenly went, oh, maybe it's these headphones. So I stopped using them, and the headaches diminished by like 80%.
Wow.
Like from a really thick, heavy headache to just quite mild. But I'm still waking up every day, having stopped using them now for about 3 months. So I'm wondering whether it was something to do with that. Not sure, but I wouldn't
Yeah, it could
normally.
be
think
EMFs
that.
can do great damage to the
Well,
brain.
yeah,
huh?
I never ever believed that kind of stuff, but now I'm wondering maybe. Yeah.
Headaches during the night, and I just keep a cold face cloth near my bed, huh? And just slap it on my forehead. Or it could be, as the French would say, you're probably having liver problems.
Could be. It's not too bad today though, so it's okay.
Well, I hope seeing the doctor gives you clarity on that, Darren.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, the earphones can do it. I have a friend who cannot even hold a cell phone. She gets headaches, huh?
yeah, well, even people who are
Yeah.
sensitive to the heat of it, which I am, my mom is, even just the heat of the cell phone can feel very irritating. But we're almost at our time, and I don't know what to say. Just that, we're almost at our time.
Well, I thought of something that I was actually just thinking about everything that we talked about from the beginning about welcoming and the different things that came up in it. I was thinking about what Rumi said, and I'm just gonna say it real quick. It was just part of a poem, but I think it really is relevant. And he said that this human being is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And so to see everything that arises as a guest, invite it in.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Wonderful. Harvey.
And
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, it's not like you have a choice though. They're just going to come in anyway.
The furniture, Darren.
Yeah, trick or treat.
Well, that's our meeting, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Group orgasm.
Group samadhi.
All right.
Bye, Perini. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Everybody,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye, Sheila.
Bye bye.
Bye, Darren.
This is Sydney.
Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Oh, are you still recording? Or maybe I'll message you.
Here, I'll stop the recording.